This video is sponsored by Fantasy Football Hub. Improve your FPL game by getting access to extensive Opta data, fixture difficulty trackers, comparison tools, and comprehensive articles from the best FPL managers. Not to mention the members-only league with a £5,000 prize pool. I'll leave a link in the description box below, and you can use the code FPLTV for a 10% discount on membership. Warning, this video contains team selection and captain choices which some viewers may find offensive. Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. After a dreadful start for my squad in Game Week 1, let's see how the lads performed in the second game week of the season. Tom Heaton's clean sheet was wiped out within 2 minutes against Bournemouth, and the goalkeeper was at fault for the goal, giving away a very cheap penalty. The positive was I owned the penalty taker, and Josh King slotted away, bagging his first goal of the season. With King getting on the score sheet after just 2 minutes, I was hopeful for a good day of returns from him. But following that penalty, there was nothing more to add, and his teammate Fraser once again failed to turn up. Last season, it was much easier to stomach blanks from Fraser because he was valued at just 5.5 million, but now at 7.5, that's a big wedge of the budget, and we really need more from him to justify that price, especially having played 2 promoted clubs so far. Speaking of disappointing double-ups, my Leicester pair once again flopped. Ayoze Perez looks like he hasn't quite settled into the side yet, and Vardy has yet to record even a single shot on target. And again, for 9 million, that's a huge wedge of the budget spent on him. I really expected Leicester to fly out of the blocks early this season, but that's simply not been the case. It was also a second consecutive blank for Diogo Jota, who, so far, has failed to replicate his Europa League form. As for the premium options Mo Salah and Sterling, captaincy last week was always between those two. I opted for Salah simply because I preferred the Southampton fixture, but unfortunately he blanked and Sterling got the 1 goal. In total, my wrong captaincy choice here only dropped me 3 points though, so not the end of the world. Perhaps the biggest disappointment of the game week was further blanks in defence, with my expensive Liverpool pair of Robertson and Trent having their clean sheets wiped out late on against the Saints. To be fair to them, if it wasn't for a calamitous mistake from Adrian in goal, they would have banked a double clean sheet there. But having watched the game, it was another poor defensive display, where Southampton probably should have scored more, and that's definitely a concern for me owning both. So overall, after a very poor game week 1, 10 of my squad once again underperformed, only getting an abysmal 30 points between them this week. In fact, my only saving grace was starting FPL £4 million legend John Lundstrom, as he once again played in midfield, bagged a clean sheet, a goal and all 3 bonus points. For this, he brought home a whopping 14 points and single-handedly saved my game week. If it wasn't for him, this week would have been nothing short of a disaster, and I actually feel very fortunate to have been bailed out by him. In total, my team returned 44 points in game week 2, still not good enough. But it was 3 points above the average, and therefore, despite being underwhelming, it's still a green arrow for my side. It's given me a jump in rank of about 400,000 places to 2.3 million. It's progress, but still way off the pace. Granted, it's only been 2 game weeks, but honestly, I wasn't expecting my squad to start this poorly to begin the season. And my biggest issue is that looking at my squad heading into game week 3, I feel it's a team that will only set me back further in the rankings, rather than being good enough to chase the pack. As long as Adrian is in goal for Liverpool, spending 14 million on Trent and Robertson doesn't seem as appealing as it once did. Especially because my defence is already pretty weak as it is, with no Wan-Bissaka, Luka Digne or Zinchenko in the squad. Both Leicester and Bournemouth could still provide excellent value this season, but in this game week in particular, Bournemouth face Man City, and Leicester, who have yet to pass the eye test, play a defensively sound Sheffield United away from home. So again, they're just not players that I feel confident about heading into this week. For this reason, I've made the choice to activate a very early wildcard, the earliest I've ever used the chip. I'll admit, it does seem like a panic and knee-jerk reaction to begin the season, and that is partly the case. I've had a bad start, player prices are dropping and rising rapidly, and I've decided to hit the button. But like I said, I'm way off the pace on 109 points, I've lost confidence in my current group of players, and I feel like if I try to be patient and wait a further week, I'm only going to set myself further back and give my side a bigger deficit to chase. So, being sat at 2.3 million, the idea is to react quickly, attack the game week, and try to get ahead of the curve by building a team that I feel confident in for the next few weeks. That's the decision I've now made, and it could go horribly wrong, but FPL is all about playing your own game, and I feel I've made the right call for my current situation. So, with the wildcard now in play, here's quite a few ideas I'm looking at heading into Game Week 3. I'll then post my final wildcard team over on Twitter shortly before Friday's game week deadline. The first lineup sees me shore up the defence, with Wan-Bissaka and Luka Digne coming in, two heavily owned defenders. Harry Kane is also someone I'm keen to include, with Tottenham having some excellent fixtures on the way. Harry Kane provides a very good captaincy option along with Sterling, so to accommodate this, Mo Salah will drop to Sadio Mane for the extra 1 million. McGinn, Martial and Pukki are the form players that I'm keen to include, and Lundstram will rotate with Cantwell on the bench. On my wildcard, I'm also considering to go for a set and forget option in goal with the reliable Ederson. Of course, it's always tempting to go for a cheap goalkeeper, and that's something I still may do, but having Ederson saves the headache of Zinchenko potentially getting rotated. This draft feels fairly safe and reliable, with good players in every position. However, there is one glaring omission, and that's Man City's in-form Kevin De Bruyne. The Belgian has looked exceptional in the opening 2 games, so being on a wild card, it does seem a bit crazy not to include him. There are ways to fit in De Bruyne though, and it means replacing Martial with him. I'd then have to downgrade Luka Digne for a cheaper defender like Montoya in order to fund the move. With this draft, it's a weaker backline, but owning De Bruyne at the moment is very hard to overlook. If, however, I want to keep De Bruyne along with Luka Digne, then draft 3 would see me change formation by dropping Pukki and switching to a 4-5-1. This does leave me without the form players in Martial and Pukki, but provides me with a lot of reliable premium options to see out the next few weeks. It also gives me a bit more time to assess how consistent Martial and Pukki can really be. The fourth option I've played around with is to stick to a 4-5-1, but to not include Harry Kane in the squad, therefore freeing up a lot more cash. This method would mean keeping Pukki up front on his own and trying to cover Kane with Son instead, who's a massive differential at the moment, and if played, he could fire me up the rankings. It's definitely a riskier draft as it's very beefy in midfield, but it does allow me to keep a strong defence intact. The negative with this draft is that it would leave me without Mo Salah and Harry Kane, two popular captaincy options. So opting for this 4-5-1 would see me keep the armband on Sterling for the foreseeable future. In this draft, there's also the possibility of funding McGinn to Martial, an even more expensive midfield. This would mean switching to a 4.5 million goalkeeper though, and bringing in Zinchenko to keep that Man City triple up. So there's a few ideas that I'm playing around with, but remember, nothing is yet finalised, and as mentioned, I'll post my final team over on Twitter shortly before the game week deadline. Let me know which draft you think is the strongest, or which players you think I've overlooked. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to support the channel by getting subscribed to FPL TV. Good luck to all of you in Game Week 3, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.